into thinking that they have a good reason. They hate me for this reason. They hate me for that reason. It's vibes overall. Or jealousy. Jealousy plays a big role, I think, especially, let's call it out how it is. With respect to Destiny's situation.
Like, I feel like this happens sometimes. Like, imagine this, okay? Oh, you just got into politics the past few years, LOL. Oh, I don't know if me and Hasan had fully split yet, but this was whenever I would like lightly criticize Hasan for some political takes, his defense, and I think even people in my community, their defense would be, well, dude, you can't criticize Hasan on this. You're just a gamer. Hasan's been doing politics for a long time. I will engage with your argument fairly, okay? You might not like the answer, but I think that this is the honest answer.
Dude, can you take this seriously?
Keep pissing, go ahead.
So
Hasan said you were jealous and seething about his growth? What, his finasteride hair growth or whatever? This is where Hasan claims you told him you were jealous of him. What?
Into thinking that they have a good reason. They hate me for this reason. They hate me for that reason. It's vibes overall. Or jealousy. Jealousy plays a big role, I think, especially, let's call it out how it is. With respect to Destiny's situation, jealousy has been a major motivation. That's it. And it's not like he hides it. He told his community back in the day, there are still chat logs for it, that he despises the fact that I was able to grow and build a sizable community when my starting point, when I started collaborating with him, was much smaller than his, including fans of his. That's from like 5 years ago. He's never dropped it. It's envy. It's spite.
I don't know what chat logs exist, but if anybody has them, you can post them. If I'm guessing, the chat logs are probably more that like, it's upsetting that people can grow huge audiences just like doing like baseless propaganda. That's probably more akin to my, whatever statement I would have made. One thing that I don't like, that's very frustrating, I think it's projection. Hasan does it, Glenn did it in our debate, and Cenk did it in his debate. I don't know if the Omar Badar guy did it, but people won't actually take you at your word, and they like ascribe all sorts of other opinions to you. So like Glenn saying, like you would do anything to support the Biden administration, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I wouldn't. Like you would probably do anything to support whatever is anti-administration. And I think we can look at that on the record, but like, why not just like talk about the facts? I don't think it's necessarily always bad. So for instance, if in the course of an argument, like you can accuse somebody of like, oh, like I think that you're being biased here, or you're blah, blah, blah. But when that becomes literally the entirety of the argument, when it's a substitute for anything of substance, Cenk did it a lot too. You just want Palestinians to die. I was like, no, what the no, how do I even engage with this comment? Like you just screaming unhinged shit at me. Yeah. You don't take Hasan at his word either. You assumed he was a grifter / shill for the longest time. Well, I mean, like at some point, you try to line up like the actions with the words, right? So, like when I accused Hasan of being a grifter or a shill, I assumed he didn't really have those beliefs much at all. Now I know he has those beliefs quite a bit more, but he's still to some extent like a grifter / shill. It's not like he's, spending a great deal of time doing real life political activism or trying to advance his beliefs. He still does what makes him money online, but he believes stronger in his political ideas than I originally thought, basically. Yeah. Is Greenwald wrong about you supporting Biden, though? When have you ever criticized Biden for something? I mean, it depends on the policy, but I mean, broadly speaking, I'm a huge Second Amendment proponent. I don't know, the weird things are, so for instance, if I say like I'm a Second Amendment proponent, so I oppose Biden there, I don't know if Biden's actually tried to limit anything relating to firearms. Trump did. Trump did the bump stock ban. So technically I align more with guns, I guess, on Biden than Trump, but that's kind of counterintuitive because typically Republicans are the ones that are pro 2A. But yeah, like, I mean, I'm a big pro-Second Amendment guy. I'm a huge First Amendment guy. I don't think Biden has tried to like censor speech or anything. I'm generally not a big fan of like protectionist policies or isolationist policies. I probably align ideologically with Biden, I think, on a lot of stuff. But Biden is like a center-left, I think, kind of guy. Yeah. But I don't align with Biden because I need to align with the Democrat. I don't align with Biden because I like Biden or because he's like pro-institution or no, because he's part of the institution or whatever. It's just because we happen to have like a lot of beliefs that we tend to agree with each other on, or at least in terms of what he's pursuing for his administration. But like I was hugely critical. For instance, Hillary wanted to make it so that you could sue firearm manufacturers for homicides. That was wild. I was opposed to that. I'm opposed to a $15 an hour minimum wage. I think Biden tried to push for that in the beginning of his administration, the $15 an hour federal minimum wage. Oh, I don't really like student loan debt forgiveness. That's a big thing that Biden has tried to push. I'm not really a big fan of that. Yeah. Probably would disagree with Biden about Rittenhouse, maybe? I don't know. What do you think about the criticism of your debate strategies, the best way to win exchanges? So many of your opponents just monologue and weave narratives together. I think you should deploy more gotcha questions. For example, you're saying to Glenn if he would have accepted a written confession for Hillary. The issue, it's hard, it's so difficult because on one end, I'm trying to have like a debate, but on the other end, the other guy is either speaking for TikTok clips or just speaking at the audience. It's very hard to bring somebody in there. I know that Pisco said this, and I've tried this before, and I actually disagree with this strategy. I don't like asking questions, even gotcha questions, because the problem is when you ask them a question, you're giving them the opportunity to speak and ramble. And I think I might have even tried it with Glenn or other people where I'll ask a question, like just simply like answer this question or whatever. But it's never a simple answer. And then when I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. Well, let me, and they're like, no, let me answer your question. It's like, me. I just asked the guy because I tried that in the past where I would ask a question to kind of like prove a point, but it would just be an opportunity for them to ramble more. It's like, fuck. And there's just like no point. So I don't think asking a question is a good rhetorical strategy unless maybe I do it unless maybe I do it at the end of like a rant of my own, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure. That only works when you have control over the stream. Yeah, it doesn't really work in a moderated debate, sure. I do think for Glenn, I think something that was effective is repeating the same. If you've got like a strong connected argument, I think repeating that over and over again, I think is a good strategy. I just don't want to like, you've got to keep circling back. Yeah, but like the problem is sometimes when you circle back, it also gives them the ability to ramble. Like, I feel like this happens sometimes. Like imagine this, okay? Define an insurrection. I think an insurrection is this and okay. All right. They give like some waffly thing and it's like, okay, this is a dumb answer. So let's say that I feel like there's a dumb answer. Okay. So I say like, okay, wait, hold on. You don't think J6 when they delayed the vote, you don't think that was an insurrection? Well, actually, I think that every insurrection needs to be of a certain size, and I think that when you look at coups in other countries and blah 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 blah, it's like, oh yeah, wait, hold on, bring it back. Hold on, wait. So you don't think that even though they were successful in their goal of delaying the vote, you don't think that was an insurrection? Oh, well, you would never consider just two people an insurrection. What about all the BLM people and blah 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 blah? Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Wait. Okay, wait. Hold on. Okay, let's come back. Okay, hold on. Wait. So even though they were effective at accomplishing their goal, you don't think that this counted as insurrection? Well, you say this, but like there's not even direct blah 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 blah. And like the problem is that when I do this recenter thing, it really works on my stream where I can say, hey, answer the question, stop, answer the question, stop. On my stream it works, but in a moderated debate, every time I ask a question, what happens is I'm enabling them to just go off on the next monologue. And they're not even talking to me, they're just talking to the audience. And there's gotta be a way, I don't know how to get an answer from what I would consider a bad faith interlocutor. I don't know how to get an answer from them without giving them the keys to just ramble for another huge point. I don't know what the solution is to this. I feel like you're a bit too aggressive when you cut people off with the "you're not answering." Yeah, but you have to. Otherwise they just ramble. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, here are the chat logs from 5 years ago. Don't you think it makes you look good if they ramble and then you point it out later? No, I don't think it makes you look good at all. If the other person is good at rambling, then they're just gonna like hit on their topics over and over again. I feel like I should do like a sample debate with somebody where I engage in these tactics and then I can show you like why I think they're really difficult to counter. You have to address it and point it out when it's your time to speak and then continue your argument. It doesn't work at that point. They've already like done the damage of getting to ramble. Okay, rant memes. Okay, I've had to deal with a lot of annoying... What was this? This is 2019. I've had to deal with a lot of really annoying optics related to recently on Twitch. I've operated on my own in this political space for years. How long? I got shit from so many people when I would talk politics on Twitch. Every large streamer's chat fucking hated when I talk politics. Oh, I remember this. This was true because I was the only one that did politics for a couple years on Twitch, and I was considered like an anti-Gamergator, SJW woke guy, I think. So every large Twitch streamer's chat fucking hated me. This happens in Asmon's School's chat, it happens in LSF, it happens in Greasy chat, it happens in every single large show I was on, and I had zero help or zero support aside from some in my community for any of this. And even when I decided to start going onto big podcasts, Be Progressive Voice, even my own community was divided on this. Oh, because I had the don't platformers back then in my community. Don't platform these people, / don't argue them, / don't give them a voice. And I did all of this for years without help or assistance. For someone to come onto Twitch, write all of my contacts to get onto my show / podcast, and then take advantage of the much better space that I've been cultivating almost on my own, and then say, oh, you just got into politics the past few years, LOL. Oh, I don't know if me and Hasan had fully split yet, but this was whenever I would like lightly criticize Hasan for some political takes, his defense, and I think even people in my community, their defense would be, well, dude, you can't criticize Hasan on this. You're just a gamer. Hasan's been doing politics for a long time. That was driving me insane. I was like, bro, what? That's pretty fucking irritating to hear. Like when all these articles are just getting written, people like Hasan are creating a safer space on Twitch. LOL, I've done this for the past 3 to 4 years on my own. I don't get a salary from some company or some support from investigators or some shit. I've done all this work on my own for so long. The idea of someone coming into the safe spaces that I've created almost on my own because of my relentless presence on all these shows and then try to accuse me of not belonging here, LOL, seems pretty shitty. Do you see why though? I knew this is always going this way. Do you know how frustrating it's been over the past year watching people in my fan base bleed over to Hasan because we share the same conclusions, even though I knew the entire time we were fundamentally different? I always said it in a gentler way, oh, we're different, or oh, we're a lot different, or I think we approach arguments way differently, or I think we do things way differently. But the idea that we were going to be grouped together on Twitch just because we were both progressive is so frustrating that now I have to sit here and take the blame for any bad arguments he puts forth or pair with him in debates to be expected to be on the same page with him. Because we did that debate against Fuentes and Sargon, and it was a disaster. Oh God, because I got paired with Hasan, and because Hasan was coming up under me, every dog shit crazy argument he would make, people would throw me in with them as well, which was really frustrating. Like he's acting like I'm literally roasting his entire career, and I wasn't. I literally just watched a whole video of his and said I disagreed with what he said. This is after he's ad homing me like crazy. He's made multiple comments about the all women, going to New Zealand, etc. multiple times, the talk fast, Ben Shapiro, etc., sociopath, etc., like all the same style insults I hear from the right all the time. Which is funny because today Hasan will retweet or amplify hit pieces on me from the Griper community. He does this all the time. That's where he was even literally watching tweets from a Nazi account to shit on me on his stream a couple weeks ago. And I have never returned the same to him. Jenk's nephew, nepotism, frat boy, etc. I've never gone in on these types of ad homs. I've introduced him to multiple podcasts, Trainwrecks, Raj Patel, and multiple real life friends he has now, Pokemon /offline TV, and helped him grow his fan base when we started talking on Twitch. That's where a lot of his fans come from now. And to get this much shit back because I wanted to disagree with the video, okay, I'm done. If you read this as like he's jealous, it's such a retarded reading of everything. Oh, Hasan, back when he was supposed to my survey. Holy shit, this legitimately made me sad. Me saying that Destiny is a recent political streamer was 100% an ad hom, and a convo about ad homs, specifically privilege, to demonstrate how hurtful they could be coming from a friend or ex-friend, I don't know. I obviously respect and admire Destiny, who said this probably on every single stream I've ever streamed since meeting him. To think I don't acknowledge and routinely talk about the tremendous positive impact he had on his gaming community, not just on Twitch, but all the internet, is insane when I talk about his impact on one of the largest Patreon podcasts, which he apparently hates. Which was the same episode Kotaku wrote about, by the way, about how I was making Twitch a safe space or whatever. Here's another instance of me not giving Destiny the credit he deserves. I wonder if he deleted this. This is at the top of Twitch's Just Chatting. I'm so proud of the leftist movement on this platform. Modal Seventh was me. Chapo Trap House, Majority FM and Tracks. Oh, God, the leftist momentum. Ugh. Back when leftist still meant liberal. Fuck. Here's me not defending him against the gross mixed characterization where I literally ended up DMing the writer because I knew him. I don't like Yang's QBI proposal, but the irony here is that both Yang and Destiny have been effective in converting alt-right kiddies, and I've suffered the consequences for it by the more radical members doxing or getting old posts like this one, like the one BuzzFeed sloppily referenced. Liberals don't understand internet culture and are hyper-focused on idpol, so they easily get duped by bad faith actor weaponizing social justice against those who are legitimately doing great work. Also, I went on Raj because Alibril and Izzy got me to go on, and then Raj asked me to reach out to you to go on, which doesn't even matter because you've done so much more for me in the gaming space, which I acknowledge all the time, dude. Was Hasan on Raj before I was? I feel like that's not true. Maybe he was? I feel like that's not true, but I'm incredibly fortunate that Destiny helped me with growth on Twitch and have tried to pay him back in kind every single time I've had an opportunity to do so. I don't think I ever can. Oh, cute. Neo Destiny, I don't know if you're being emotional right now. I can't see that, but it really sucks you feel this way. Obviously, I couldn't get this fucking emotional over simple disagreements if I didn't respect you and admire you, man. What the fuck? As far as debates go, my position on them being purely for spectacle has always been the same, but I guess I hadn't made that clear for this community. Damn, I wonder what videos or comments I'm referencing here. I don't have the links or sources of this anymore. Do you want to do a religion debate with Jordan Peterson? No shot. Emotional as he was shitting on you relentlessly over the Kamala debate. Was that after the Kamala Harris debate? At Destiny, I have to say I really don't think you did well in your debate against Glenn. All of your arguments predicated on legal definitions and opinions, which is good, but you failed to give a good argument for why Trump isn't being charged with insurrection. If a lawyer, a legal expert, doesn't believe he can secure a guilty conviction for insurrection, then how can you make the claim that Trump was involved in insurrection without admitting the legal system is broken? The problem, my dude, is that I think to explain this to you, it would, in the course of a debate, it would take a long time. And I don't have the time. I just don't have the Glenn wouldn't give me the time. Glenn knows the answer to this because he was a lawyer, is a lawyer. I don't know if he still has his legal license or whatever. Just like he knew the answer for the when he tried to pass off that bullshit about Trump just getting advice from his lawyers, ignoring the fact that he was soliciting crimes from these lawyers, which is one of the few times. Is it called the conspirator exception? The co-conspirator exception to hearsay? I don't know if it's this. No, it's not this. There's a name for an exception for attorney-client privilege. Is it the crime? It might be the crime fraud exception. Yeah. For him bringing that up about he's just talking to his lawyer. It's just legal advice. That can never be. It's like bullshit. That can never be. That you can never commit a crime if an attorney tells you to do something. That's a ridiculous argument. It's convincing to people like you because you're fucking retarded and you don't know. Sorry. Hold on. Let me drink some Soylent. My bad. Okay. Let me soy up. On one end over here, you have this is like the real world, okay? In the real world, the way that we decide if things happen or don't is largely based on our subjective feelings and interpretations of events. In the real world, we don't have to prove a case in front of a judge or jury. So, for instance, let's say that I come home, and let's say that my girlfriend was supposed to meet me at 8 o'clock at home, and she ends up staying 2 hours late to work. And let's say that she's done this 5 times, and let's say that a week ago, I caught her texting some guy I didn't want her talking to, okay? And then she comes home 2 hours late, right? I might say at the end of that, listen, bitch, you're cheating on me. Get the fuck out, okay? Now, this is a possible thing. I'm sure it happens. People make these decisions. None of this would hold like in a court of law. Like, you don't have any hardcore evidence. You don't have any direct evidence, no witness testimony. Your circumstantial evidence is weak at best. The charge of like cheating is very serious. You can't, like, you have no proof of any of this, and you really don't, right? But in the real world, we don't look for proof like that. That's not how it works. In the legal system, things work a lot differently there. So, for instance, maybe it's the case that a man rapes a woman. Amogus. I don't know why I drew these circles. Maybe it's the case over here that a guy rapes a woman, okay? Let's say that she witnesses it, and then let's say that she tells 2 friends, okay? She witnesses her own rape, obviously, because he raped her, right? So he rapes her. She tells 2 friends, okay? Then let's say these 3 people, let's say these 2 people actually decide to go to the police. She doesn't want to go to police because she's got an outstanding warrant, okay? So these 2 go to the police. They talk to the police. The prosecutor, the district attorney, gets the facts of the case, and he looks at the facts. And this might be what a prosecutor thinks, okay? These are some things that could happen, okay? So she got raped. She has direct evidence of it. Let's say that she waited 2 weeks to go in and report it. She didn't get a rape kit done, but she said she got raped, okay? Well, let's say this friend over here, is a crackhead. Maybe she's done like crazy shit in the past. Maybe she's got like a criminal record, and they don't want to bring in their other friend because they're worried about her having a warrants open for her or whatever. So they don't want to reference her. They don't bring her. The prosecuting attorney might look at this case and they might go, okay, listen, like, we can charge this guy with rape, but if he goes and he gets a good defense attorney, if I have to stand in front of a jury and try to argue that this woman who got raped, let's say even she's a hooker, let's say she's a hooker and she's got a friend here, history of, crack, drug crimes or whatever. And this guy, let's say this guy's character is actually morally, in terms of society, he's an upstanding person. Let's say he's he could be a college professor, no criminal record, blah, blah, blah. If I take this case in front of a jury, the chances that I'm going to be able to convince every single member of that jury that this hooker and this crackhead with a criminal record, that these 2 people's testimony alone, one who's only hearing this secondhand from a friend and then one from a hooker, I don't know if I can convince a jury of 12 people that this guy actually did it. So, but I do have this woman saying she was raped and she did tell a friend. Maybe what I can do is, maybe I can charge this guy with a crime or bring him in for questioning, or no, we'll even say charge him with a crime. Maybe we can bring him in and say, listen, you're looking at this potential crime. If you want, you can plead this down to, I don't know what you would plead rape down to. Have you ever plead rape down to like assault or something? You plead this down to another crime, okay? We're gonna let you charge and plead guilty to assault and battery or something, okay? So, an ass bat. I don't know if you would realistically plead something like this down like this, but then let's say the professor thinks about it. He's talking to his defense attorney. The defense attorney's like, listen, I think if you go to court, you've got a really good chance of beating this case because the prosecution knows it. That's why they're offering this plea deal. But do you really want to go to court and do you really want to go to court for raping somebody? Do you really want all this testimony to the public eye? Do you want this to drag on for months and months? I think you should, it's probably in your interest to take the deal. And the professor might think about it, it's like, you know what? Yeah, f it, I will. So you take the deal, they lose the right to sue in the future, civilly or to for the DA to bring criminal charges, blah, blah, and then you take this deal, right? This might be an example, and this is one of like a billion different ways for how an example would play out in terms of the legal system, okay? So nobody, if you have an understanding of the legal system, okay, you would never look at the professor and go like, oh, well, if he raped her, why didn't they charge him with rape? Well, if he raped her, if it actually happened, why didn't they charge him with rape then? If they actually raped, right, you would never say that because it's retarded. In criminal court, it doesn't work this way. The charges that you pick are the ones that you think you can prove in court, okay? You don't charge people with crimes that you think they did. You charge people with crimes that you think that you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, or at least you have a reasonable suspicion they committed the crime, and then through discovery, you hope that you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt they've done it. And if you can't, then you drop the charge, because that's how criminal convictions work in the United States. So, when it comes to people like Greenwald, who's a lawyer, and Greenwald knows all of this, okay? Greenwald knows all of this. When he says over and over again, well, if Trump was involved in an insurrection, why didn't I charge him with a crime of insurrection? The reality is I don't even know if the insurrection crime, I don't even know like how this would work. So they're always talking about 18 USC 2383. First of all, my understanding is nobody has ever been charged with this crime or any of the preceding crimes before it. And the crime is literally whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. So there's a couple of big things with this. So one, this still doesn't actually even give us a definition of a rebellion or insurrection. So J6 could be an insurrection, and this criminal statute wouldn't even get us any closer, even if he was charged with this crime. Number one. Number two, because this crime, particular statute has never been used before, and because so much, and the wording is a little bit ambiguous, or at least the part that we care about, right? What is a rebellion or insurrection? Why would you wield this criminal statute or try to deploy this against somebody when there's no history whatsoever of it ever being used? The rebellion or insurrection terms are still not rigidly defined here. And you've got other charges that you think are more likely to stick. That's probably why Jack Smith wouldn't use this particular statute. That'd be my guess. He might even specifically say it, maybe if we look at his arguments. I haven't actually looked at that before. Jack Smith, why didn't you charge insurrection, I guess? Yeah. But that would be like the answer. So in other words, you are admitting that legal experts agree you can't prove without a reasonable doubt that Trump was involved in an insurrection. They probably don't think they can prove that, correct? Or rather, I don't think we even have a federal charge that defines insurrection. So they probably think that would be a really difficult thing to like prove in court. Somebody else said, he's talking about proving it's an insurrection so that he can be barred from office. You don't have to prove that there was an insurrection to bar him from office. That's not how that amendment works. Deej, thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Are there juries in these court cases? I believe you always have the option of a jury. I don't think that there's ever an exception to that. Maybe in civil court. I think you can always demand a jury. If you can't prove it in court, I don't think it's fair to assign guilt. You just fundamentally, you just weren't following any single thing I just said. I don't know how to communicate with you. Yeah, the legal world in terms of what you can prove in court is different than the real world in terms of how we ascribe. I've never said that like Trump is guilty of like the criminal statute. I've never said Trump should be charged with 18 USC 2383. I've never said that before. But January 6th was obviously an insurrection, and I think Trump obviously like aided or helped with it. But I don't know in terms of a criminal statute if that would necessarily. I don't even know how you would charge this criminal statute because I don't think it's ever been done before. Submit a FOIA request to see how many people have ever been charged with insurrection. Aren't all criminal charges public? I was on a jury. Verdicts can be wild. I don't know why anyone would want something to go to trial. Yeah, trials are legitimately, at least from what I've heard, at least on the criminal side of things, trials are like the wild, wild west. You truly never have any idea what's going to happen when you're in front of a jury. There might be some cases that are really easy or whatever, but like at the end of the day, like a jury is 12 normal humans. They're not endowed with any superhuman understanding of law or morality. Just 12 normal dudes. Yeah. No jury right outside. Okay, hold on. Pisco says there's no jury right necessarily outside of criminal context. Different burdens of proof beyond a reasonable doubt versus much lower preponderance of clear and convincing. Prosecutorial discretion to pick easier charges and not fail to get convictions on a never used statute. Easy answer. Yeah, I think for civil trials, you might not have a right to a jury. Like, I don't know if you can demand a jury trial if you want to sue for like $500 in owed rent or something, you know? I don't know if you can charge this, but do you think it's more likely that Trump attempted a coup instead of an insurrection because of the behind-the-scenes stuff? The way that I understand it is, I would say that Trump attempted to coup the government, and that during the January 6th protests, that riot essentially turned insurrection as an attempt to support the coup. But at the end of the day, for God knows what reasons, it all ended up failing because our system, I guess, is a lot stronger than even I said. Is it okay to call someone a rapist even though you admit they can't be found guilty of rape in a legal proceeding? Sure, some people have that opinion. Yeah, of course. I claim that my first two serious relationships, I claim that both of those women were physically abusive. Neither of them been charged with assault and battery. Like, yeah, what do you mean? I'm sorry, but he doesn't need to be charged with insurrection for him to be removed off the ballot. No, he does not need to be charged with insurrection for him to be removed off the ballot, is according to the 14th Amendment. Correct. Just like Glenn mentioned Hawaii, which was not analogous at all. When pressed, he acknowledged that the cases don't have any relation whatsoever. He just straight up lies and bets on the audience not knowing better. I think so, yeah. There's legal arguments over this, no? No. I don't believe there are any convincing legal arguments that demonstrate that he needs to be charged or convicted of insurrection or anything. No. Well, there's not a convincing argument that he needs to be convicted of insurrection for a state to consider listing him on the ballot. It might be that a state, that procedure decides that they want some kind of fact-finding or conviction. But yeah. Do you think there's a winning outcome that can come from debates with the likes of Glenn? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a decent debate. Yeah, I don't know. It's super autistic, but I wish that we could spend like a 30-minute like crossfire round where like I'm going to ask you very simple questions. I need like a one sentence or lesser answer to like build on an argument. Yeah. Do you read YouTube chat or only Kick? I generally read my Kick chat. We have to trust the courts, no? We have to trust the courts, but you trust the courts to do what the courts do. And what the courts do is they return like legal decisions on things. Courts won't tell you necessarily what's right or wrong. Courts don't even really tell you. Here, okay, this sounds like such a meaningless distinction, okay? But it's really, 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 really important to understand this. I personally, as somebody that doesn't really know anything about law and does a fucking music career about, I'm going to say this. I think that this is like a cornerstone of understanding criminal justice in the United States, okay? The only thing a court can do in a criminal case, it can only do one thing, okay? And what it can do is it can tell you if the state was able to convince 12 people that somebody committed a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. That's all they can do. They can't prove 100% that he did it. That's not the standard. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. They can't prove 100%. And courts, they can't really exonerate people. Court doesn't declare innocence either. Court can't tell you he didn't murder him. The only thing that happens in a criminal court is the criminal court, the state or the federal government is trying to convince 12 people that somebody most likely committed this crime, and that burden of proof is 95 to 99%, right? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond all reasonable doubt, this person committed a crime. That's all the court can do. If you're not guilty, right? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that like there's probably a reason why they say not guilty instead of innocent, because they don't really declare your innocence. You might have murdered the guy. You might be a rapist. Most people in the court might even think that you're guilty. They might even think you're a rapist. But that's not what the court is in the business of doing. The courts do not prove innocence. That's not what they're in the business of doing. It's just, I think it's really important to understand that when you understand what we get from criminal courts. Yeah. I watched your stream when you were talking about the Whitmer case the other day, and I was one of the unindicted co-conspirators on that case. You're interested in first-hand knowledge. Really? You could try and email me if you want, but... Can't you just build your argument by assigning the answer to a question instead of asking the question, and then Glenn would have to fight on your ground? Maybe. I don't know. It just feels lame when both sides are just trying to like build arguments for the audience, I think. Do you have an opinion on the video of the 5 migrants beating up the 2 police officers? They were released a day later with no bail, and one of them flipped off the press with a double burden when he was released. I don't know anything about this. I haven't heard of it. Does it not feel spooky that a state can kind of willy-nilly bar people from ballots then? Like, what standard should a state use in considering barring people? It's easy with Trump, but if we're going to say that you don't need anything definitive, it feels like a slippery slope. Okay, so... Listen, I understand your thoughts and feelings, okay? Because I had these same thoughts and feelings, all right? Okay. A lot of these problems, a lot of the discomfort, I think, stems from people not understanding what any part of how our actual system works, okay? So when it comes time to vote for president, people think that there is a federal election that happens and that all of us go to the ballot box and we all vote for president, and I guess some down ballot people, who cares? And then all of the votes get counted, I don't know, by the federal government, maybe the states help, and then eventually a president is declared. Now, if you're a little bit more savvy, you realize, well, okay, it's not actually really like a federal election. It's 50 different state elections for federal office, and the individual states are all in charge of like counting all their stuff and figuring out who won or lost, okay? So it feels like if you're like more politically savvy, you understand that the states all run the federal elections and that you vote there, and then once you vote, you know, you've got an electoral college and all that, blah, blah, blah. That's not even actually what's happening though, right? I'm pretty sure, I say pretty sure, okay? I'll admit I didn't know any of this shit more than a few months ago before I really started digging into how elections work. I don't know fuck all. The government is complicated, okay? Or I'm retarded. But if I'm retarded, we're all retarded. What's actually happening is I don't believe that you, as an American citizen, I don't know if you have a right to vote for president as an individual at all. I think what the rights are actually doled out to is each of the states, 50 individual states, they get to vote for president. And what these states have done individually is what they've decided is what you're actually going to vote for are electors. And then in most states, there are rules that if the citizens vote for the electors have to vote for president. That's the actual system that we have set up. And it's far more convoluted. No, hold on. I'm sorry. That's not fair. It's not convoluted. It's far more decentralized than it feels because of how streamlined the whole process is. It's 50 different state elections, and you're technically voting for the state electors, and the electors are usually bound by state law to vote in favor of the president that the state assembly bodies, you know, tell them they have to do, basically. Control F, right to vote for. This was from Bush v. Gore. The individual citizen has no federal constitutional right to vote for electors for the President of the United States unless and until the state legislature chooses a statewide election as the means to implement its power to appoint members of the Electoral College. This is the source for the statement in McPherson v. Blacker that the state legislature's power to select the manner for appointing electors is plenary. It may, if it so chooses, select the electors itself, which indeed was the manner used by state legislatures in several states for many years after the framing of our Constitution. History has now favored the voter, and in each of the several states, the citizens themselves vote for the presidential electors. When the state legislatures vest the right to vote for president and its people, the right to vote as the legislature has prescribed its fundamental, and one source of its fundamental nature lies in the equal weight according to each vote and the equal dignity owed to each voter. The state, of course, after granting the franchise in the special context of Article 2, can take back the power to appoint electors. See it at 35. There is no doubt of the right of the legislature to resume the power at any time, for it can neither be taken away nor abdicated. This means that technically, I believe, even though it sounds really crazy illegal, I'm pretty sure that Georgia could say, hey guys, just so you know, our state assembly, our state legislature, they're going to do a vote, and their vote is next year, they're going to vote for whoever the Republican is. All of our electoral votes are going there. And when you guys go to the ballot box to vote, we actually just take those and we just dump them in a landfill. None of your votes are counted. Don't waste your time. And I'm pretty sure that a state has the authority to do that, because a state has absolute authority when it comes to running their elections. Now, you might vote out the state legislatures from being in office. You might say, hold on, well, that's bullshit. But as long as your state legislators aren't doing anything that's violating your state constitutions that your state Supreme Courts will agree with, a state could do that. And I don't think that we all know that. So now, backing all the way from that, if that's our understanding now of states running elections, when you ask, does it not feel spooky that a state can kind of willy-nilly bar people from ballots then? No. In fact, of all the things a state could do, this is probably one of the least spooky things that a state could do. That a state could take a prior oath taker who they feel has engaged in insurrection and then forbid them from being listed on a ballot in the future. Sounds like one of the least spooky things a state could do. We could think of like 50 more spooky things a state could theoretically do if they wanted to. I think states could theoretically assign their electors by astrology. They could do a lottery, like literally play bingo, or not bingo, Keno or some, I don't know, like literally draw balls to vote for a candidate. I think a state, they have the plenary authority to do that, assuming their state legislators are approving it and assuming it's not violating their state constitution and the state Supreme Courts rule that it is in concordance with their constitution. Yeah. Okay. Is this why we are a republic and not a democracy? Bro, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know what the that means. I've tried to look this up before because some people say like, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. And they'll be like, we're a republic because we have representatives. It's like, wasn't that just representative democracy? Doesn't a republic just mean like a system with like rule of law and division of fucking, like bodies or whatever? I don't even know if there's like strict definitions for any of these things. A republic is a state in which political power rests with the public through their representatives, in contrast to a monarchy. Representation in a republic may or may not be freely elected by the general citizenry. In many historical republics, representation has been based on personal status, and the role of elections has been limited. Oh, so I guess you could have a republic that's not a democracy. You could have like a... What else? In Rome, did they ever vote for their people ever? What would you call a republic that's like not a democratic republic? Sorry, I thought you were done earlier. So would you not be outraged by a state barring Biden from the ballot? To be clear, I don't want Trump in office. I just feel like there should be some standard. Well, the question would be, what are you barring Biden by for what? Like, how is he disqualified from running? That would be the question. We are a constitutional republic. I think the keyword for us is federal republic. I've heard democratic republic. Yeah, I don't know if these terms have like ultra strict definitions or if they're more just like use, common use or whatever. You just said a state can basically do whatever they want. Well, yeah, sure, but I would hope there would be some set of rules they would follow. Like, I like the fact that we broadly vote for electors. I personally think electors should always be proportionally doled out, like Maine and Nebraska, but... So basically, since the creation of our nation, our state government delegated power to the people originally given to them. America bad, people saying that. Wait, what? At Destiny, for instance, you could have a gladiator match that decides a representative. That would be an example of a system that isn't a democracy. Oh, sure, okay, maybe, yeah. Then why vote? I mean, because right now our states basically let it so that when you vote, you vote for electors, and then that determines who your state votes for president. I don't entirely disagree with you, but I don't like opening avenues to bad faith engagement with the system, if that makes sense, even if the Trump barring is in good faith. Okay, so listen, Z-Trings, I will engage with your argument fairly, okay? You might not like the answer, but I think that this is the honest answer, okay? So is it the fact that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment could open up to bad faith actors the ability to ban certain people from ballots because of the way that it's phrased? For instance, maybe Florida says, you know what? we actually think that BLM was an insurrection, and we think that Biden easily engaged in or gave comfort to the enemies thereof, and we're going to unlist Biden from the ballot. Would I think that that's a bad thing? Yes. Would I think that the state shouldn't do that? Of course. However, because of the way that the amendment is written, they are granted that authority. They do have that power, and this is something they're allowed to do. Unfortunately, I don't like how something can be used as not an actual legal argument against whether or not something ought to be considered as part of the law. It's shitty, I agree. Or rather, it could be used shittily, I agree. I don't actually think it's shitty. I think it could be used shittily, but I mean, the fact that maybe some people could abuse something is not really a legal argument against the thing itself. No, it's not. I can show you if you want to see it. Listen, if you want to link in chat, go for it. So can the federal government not investigate election irregularities in a state? I would be shocked if the federal government could do that without the state consenting. I could be wrong, but states, I'm pretty sure states are given wide. I don't think the federal government can have any say whatsoever, except for in cases where constitutional law that has been, is it called incorporation, where most federal laws incorporated to state law? So for instance, I could say tomorrow, you guys aren't voting. If I was a state assembly or the state legislature, I could say, by the way, guys, we're doing away with all voting, get fucked. But I can't say, by the way, guys, we're doing away with all voting for blacks, because that would violate essential parts of the Constitution, equal protections or whatever, that are necessarily incorporated as part of like the state law, I believe. I have like 10 separate highlighted documents showing the sensitivity. Well, Sasha, post one in chat. Just post one. Post your strongest one in chat. Your strongest warrior. Would you ever have a debate / interview with Ilan Pape? If you wanted to, yeah, I think it'd be really interesting, yeah. Destiny, the ability to abuse seems like a perfectly valid argument, or are we just appealing to just change the law here? If it were to come up, that would be what you would have to do. You would have to change the law. Like, getting rid of slavery was a really big deal and was really inconvenient for a lot of people. Desegregating schools was a really big deal and was really hard for a lot of people. Like, there are Supreme Court decisions that have been passed, there have been amendments that have been added, there have been laws that have been passed that are really inconvenient for a lot of people and are really difficult to implement, but that's not a legal argument against them, right? So the MAGA just has to find these state electors and they control the outcome of the election. If they threaten them in order to make the electors vote for Trump, well, that's kind of what Donald Trump tried to do. That's why they submitted the fake electors, the 7 sets of fake electors. Are you in favor of changing that law then, Destiny? I feel like having a higher burden somehow on the fact-finding relating to insurrection might be important. But I mean, like, Congress is kind of really already agreed that there basically was one. I mean, the House voted to impeach Donald Trump the second time. A majority of the Senate did, but they didn't hit the majority needed to convict in the Senate. But most of the senators that didn't vote didn't do so on grounds of disagreeing on the merits. They did so because they felt like they couldn't impeach a president that was out of office. So, I mean, like, technically, most people have already agreed to it, although that's a super technicality, but are you not willing to admit, don't ever phrase something like that, okay? I'm not whatever fucking loser you're used to watching on whatever dog shit podcast you probably spend way too much money supporting. Am I ever willing to admit? I'll say whatever I think is true. Okay, I literally have no sponsors. I have nobody that I'm fucking beholden to. The only person I have enough money to retire. Okay, I say what I think. I mean what I say. If you think something different, then kill off yourself. Go do something else. I don't know why the fuck you would come here thinking that, like, yeah, I do what the fuck I want. Okay. You're not willing to admit then that states unilaterally removing candidates from the ballot is arguably disenfranchising their own voters? No. It would only be disenfranchisement if they were removing candidates from the ballots for really bad reasons. There are certain qualifications to be president. You have to be 35 years old. You can't have served more than 2.5 terms. You have to be a naturalized citizen in the United States, a naturalized born citizen in the United States. And you can't have taken an oath to office and have engaged in insurrection or rebellion or provided aid or comfort to the enemies of the United States or whatever, or thereof or whatever. These are qualifications to be listed on the ballot. Every single state can make the determination to not list somebody on a ballot if they feel like they don't meet these qualifications to hold office. That is the power that is granted to states. That's just how it works. I don't think willing to admit always means too scared to say, but rather stress testing someone's positions based on prior statements. Just, I mean, like, whatever. I don't care. I don't know. Like, my views are, like, so heterodox. It's just so cringe. Like, I guess I might, like, I definitely can have personal biases, but, like, when people come in here pretending like I'm a partisan hack, or, like, I've got, like, some crazy allegiance to some political line or ideology, when it's like, bro, I feel like my history speaks for itself. Yeah. What else? So why does Colorado's justification for barring Trump matter? What do you mean, why does it matter? I don't understand what you mean. I'm supposed to be going over the documents tonight with counterpoints, so you should be able to see all of them. I'll make sure to put them all in Google Drive so you can read them. You can't just like screenshot one right now? How are there so many documents that you can just screenshot one of them or put it on an imager and link in chat? What do you mean? Is there a trick you use to tell someone is being bad faith? I mean, there's like a lot of different little things a person can do if they're being bad faith. But like, people can also just like be stressed or like make dumb arguments too. Like, just because somebody appears to be bad faith doesn't mean they're always being bad faith. It really depends. I try not to accuse people or act like people are being bad faith unless there's like a really, really, really good reason to believe so. There are certain thresholds that once somebody's passed it, I'm like, yeah, fuck you. What kind of a loser would think you're partisan? It's not like you canvass for the Dems or anything. Ban these retards. I canvass for the Dems because I agree with them right now. I don't have an allegiance to the Democratic Party. I mean, if CO can just remove Trump for any reason they want, why is it even going to the Supreme Court? Well, because we're having a big debate right now over if the 14th Amendment is real. Or if that was like a ghost edit to the Constitution and they don't remember who actually put it in the book, or if it's like actually, you know, like some time traveling mischiefness that has gone on. But that's what we're debating right now, I think. I believe back in the day, having delegates was important due to the lack of traveler information collection, but I believe in the day, the delegate process is archaic to say the least. I was a state delegate for the Democratic Party, and how they counted who won was who screamed the loudest. No lie, it was wild. Well, it sounds like what you're actually talking about is how they would vote in caucuses. But even if it's not real, isn't Colorado justified in saying, LOL, Trump isn't getting on the ballot? Yes, okay, but you have to listen to what I'm saying, okay? Colorado is allowed to kick Trump off the ballot, I think, if they want to, for no reason at all. I think Colorado is allowed to do that, okay? However, Colorado is not removing Trump from the ballot, okay? The people who are in charge of listing Trump on the ballot are the ones that have removed Trump from the ballot. Now, my guess is going to be that Colorado probably has a state constitution, and in that state constitution, Colorado probably says, or there's probably some part of it, or there's probably some concordance, or when all the federal things become state things. I just used this word earlier. Fuck, what was I thinking of? But the state constitution probably says that candidates will only be removed from ballots if they are disqualified for reasons that are stated in the Constitution, whatever, right? So even though Colorado could do it, what we're talking about now is like Colorado rewriting their constitution. Colorado can't do things that are in violation of their state constitution. So right now the argument isn't over, and we use all of these terms like interchangeably, but they really are important here. It's not so much that we're arguing whether Colorado can do something. I'm pretty sure well, for the Supreme Court case, maybe that's the argument. I don't think that's the argument. What is there like an easy way to find out what exactly is, like what is the exact like summary of the argument before the Supreme Court from Colorado? Like what exactly are they going to be hearing? But yeah, I don't think in general, the argument's not like that Colorado can't do something. It's that, does this particular thing violate Colorado state constitution? It's like the question. It's kind of like asking like, can the United States do something when it comes to like throwing somebody in prison for no reason, right? Can the United States do that? I mean, yeah, really, the United States can do anything, right? But that's not really what we're asking. We're not asking if the United States can do something. What we're asking is would this action that this, representative of the criminal justice system do, would it be violative of the federal laws or the U.S. Constitution? Is what we're really asking, right? Ugh. So Colorado can have its state laws, but the federal ones make sure to follow them. Kind of. There's a concept called, Peace will know this. What is it called? Incorporation?
Yeah.
Where like generally most federal laws I think kind of
rights.
get incorporated into state laws and shit.
So it is true what you're saying. I think your intuitions are correct, Stephen, that there's a lot of state laws, state constitutional provisions that incorporate or point to federal statutes. So in Colorado, as part of this proceeding, what the Colorado Supreme Court said, is that in Colorado, we have a law essentially that requires our primary candidates to be federally qualified, right? So there's a state law that says, hey, I'm simplifying, but the state law says in order to be on our state ballots, you have to be federally qualified. In the course of interpreting state law, there's an embedded federal question there, right? The embedded federal question is one that the Supreme Court can review, right? Now, Colorado, if it wanted to, potentially could make a law that's even stricter than Section 3.
Yeah.
They could make a law that says insurrectionists, regardless of whether you take an oath, you're disqualified under Colorado state law. But what Colorado is saying is, listen, we are putting everything in terms of this particular suit into our interpretation of federal law, and that gives a common question for the Supreme Court to resolve, which would apply to Colorado. But
yeah,
really,
and understanding the embedded part of that is really important. If you go, like if you were to go to mom and you were to say, Mom, I really want to go out with my friends and party tonight till 1 a.m. and mom says, sorry, you can't do that. Dad says no. Mom is kind of like saying no, but she's just incorporating or echoing essentially whatever dad is saying. So then the question becomes then, okay, well, I want to challenge mom's decision. Well, mom is just saying whatever's dad's saying. If you really want to challenge mom's decision, well, we have an embedded question about what did dad say. And in this case, dad is like the federal restrictions on who can hold office.
That's such a good analogy.
Yeah, and mom is like Colorado saying like, well, we do whatever the federal government
says. But mom could have
her
her own basis for not letting you out.
She
right?
could. Mom could literally
decide.
say, you're not going out at all, actually. Or you could go and argue against dad, and dad could say, like, you know what, actually, you can go out. And then mom could come back and say, actually, no, fuck you. I actually do have the final say. It's just in this particular case, I decided to echo what dad said, but I could also say no for whatever reason I want because I'm mom, as long as it's not racial or it violates equal protections amongst her children.
Right.
Yeah.
But now imagine your mom is a robot and your mom has like preset instructions and
For
you can sort of think, what?
Oh, sorry. My bad. Go ahead.
Dude, can you
bad.
take this seriously?
Keep pissing. Go ahead.
So if mom was a robot and mom had like a set of instructions where you kind of know, you don't know everything, and maybe there's some cases where the original programmers of the mom bot need to go and like interpret what things mean. But in general, if you put in these inputs, the decision about whether you can go out or you have to stay in will be made by these sets of rules that you've given mom bot. You can think of those like pre-programmed commands and responses by MomBot as like the state constitutional system, which is always been designed to protect the integrity of the system, right? So like there could be state constitutional provisions that say we are going to protect your right to vote for presidential electors as a constitutional provision, and therefore it's like MomBot saying it will never be the case that not doing your homework will be a basis to prevent you from voting or something or going out, right? In that context. So there are still self-limitations that mom can put on herself, and or like the people interpreting mom's command can put on MomBot to protect your right to go out and party. It's a good analogy, though.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm trying.
Or do you have anything else?
Are there any states that have broader restrictions than the 14th Amendment? Could you ask Pisco for me, please?
I don't know that I'm aware of any.
I feel like I feel like the answer is yes.
Hang
Don't
on.
states have like restrictions on like you have to be polling at a certain percentage to be listed on a ballot or whatever? Like you
Well,
can't
there are
just
the
go.
spoiler ones, right? That we read about in the Mars article.
Oh, true.
where-
Yeah, some have spoiler rules, and that's not constitutional.
Right.
But I'm pretty
Or you
sure
have
that like
a certain number of what is it called? Signatures, right?
Yeah.
In order to get the ballot access, you need to have X number of signatures.
yeah, because not just
can
anybody
change
can
it.
go and list themselves
Yeah.
on a ballot for election. So there must be some qualifications there that a state wants you to meet. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could say something like, if you don't get 50,000 signatures, you're not allowed, any vote for you is invalid, right? You could think of that situation. And what would be wrong with that law? That's an additional qualification for states. Now, it's not a qualification for office, but it's a qualification for the state's system of assigning electors. And again, states can do whatever they want with a lot of what they want with electors as well. They can make criminal laws that say that you're not allowed to vote against who you've been assigned to as an elector. And many states, I think the majority of states have said, there can be no faithless electors. That's okay too. And so states have a lot of deference in making more specific, less specific rules. Now, I think Stephen and I, we're not in favor of taking away the vote for electors, right? You and I wouldn't be okay, and we don't want there to be states just getting rid of their elections. Fair?
What do you mean by getting rid of their elections?
Like, even though we recognize that states are allowed to do away with presidential elections.
Oh no, yeah, I think it's good that that's been transferred to the people.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we would only want them to be disallowed for good reasons. I think that you and I would agree that a minimum ballot, signature requirement makes sense, and other kind of requirements make sense. And I think that Section 3 makes sense. But if you're going to use Section 3 as a basis to disqualify, I think there are common questions that will be able to be resolved by federal courts or specifically the Supreme Court and by state courts.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, buddy.
I love you. Be careful. Wait. Fuck. Do you think you heard that? Okay, whatever. Oh, hello?
What up?
Does the state Supreme Court have the final say over a state constitution, or is that ever available for federal review?
There's been envisioned and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been envisioned a limited amount of potential review for the Supreme Court on issues of state law, if and only if
It
it's a
contradicts
super
federal?
high standard. No. So if there's a contradicts federal, then federal wins because supremacy clause. That's
Yeah.
a federal question. But if on a interpretation of state law, the only time where the Supreme Court, I don't even know if there's binding precedent on this issue, but at least in oral arguments and in general, they've discussed it, is if a state act for purposes of the elections clause of the Constitution, I think this has come up, is it's so not a legislative act. It's just judicial rewriting. It's a super high standard that's been envisioned that only then and only then would the Supreme Court review a state law question. But almost it's been a default assumption, and I think that practically no one is advocating that it not be this case, that state Supreme Courts are the final arbiters of state law. And so for these specific proceedings, on the two of the dissenters were purely on state law grounds. The Supreme Court will not have occasion necessarily to review those issues of state law. The only thing that's going to remain are the federal issues, the throat clearers in the form of the due process stuff, the does it apply to the president questions, and obviously the substantive questions about insurrection and engagement and all that stuff. But in general, the answer is the state courts are going to decide on what state law means.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay.
All right, but
Bye.
have a good one.
One more question, because I'm autistic about this. I understand the referring to the 14th Amendment for reasoning for removing from the ballot. My question is, who has the authority to categorically say, yes, Trump did take part in an insurrection? Is insurrection different than normal crimes? It's not about the crime. It's just, and who has the authority is whoever's in charge of listing people on the ballot. It would be whoever would have the authority for denying you on the ballot. If you're under the age of 35, it would be that person. That's going to be different from state to state to state. Why does the Constitution restrict who can run in Section 3, even though elections are supposed to be the state's responsibilities? Because there are some constitutional restrictions on who can run for president. I've already given some that appear in the original text about being 35, about being a natural-born citizen, and about holding, I think, Later, it was added 2.5 terms, right? Have you ever thought about redirecting the conspiracy part brain of conservatives and distrust of government and present what Trump has done that way? There are some pretty crazy and provable conspiracies there, and you don't need to appeal to a law to structure them. I don't know. Somebody gave me a whole thing that I should try that, actually. That the next time I go to a debate, what I should do is I should prove that there was a conspiracy on January 6th and that Trump did do everything, but they're actually right about more than they realize. But like they're right, but the conclusion is wrong. So like, for instance, that Ray Epps was working as a Fed, but the head of the FBI was a Trump appointee, and Ray Epps was a Fed that was working like in a Trump division of the FBI, that there were a lot of instigators on the ground, that Trump was trying to get people instigated to go in and start an insurrection, that there were actually police officers that were leading people through the Capitol, but they were Trump's men that were, they said that like one thing that would be funny is to go and construct like an alternative conspiracy theory, because you could probably support that with stronger evidence than the Ray Epps stuff, which I thought was kind of funny, because I think you actually could put together some compelling conspiracy theories, meaning just so stories. You're not actually, like they wouldn't be real, but they'd be more compelling than the Ray Epps shit. But yeah. How else can you explain the fact that it took 3 hours for the National Guard to finally get okayed, you know, other than the fact that Trump was watching his instigators and Ray Epps and all these people? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny, but... The age limit, term limits, and natural born citizen requirements are questions that 98.99% of people agree on the answer to. Do you think the precedent of adding a question, did this person aid or participate in the insurrection, that could be contested by even 10% of people is a huge step? It might have been Jessica, but who cares? That's not, I mean, they added it. The reality is that they added it. So even if it was difficult, even if it was hard, they added it. It's part of the Constitution. Did you see the new executive order regarding settlers considering sanctioning Ben-Gvir? Maybe. I think I've got that article open. Using it as a non-bright line case is new. It was used for the Civil War before. Nobody questioned that being an insurrection. Okay, but the wording of the amendment says engaged in insurrection or rebellion. It doesn't say just engaged in the last insurrection of the rebellion. It doesn't say not in any future insurrections or rebellions. It says in insurrection or rebellion. Like, it's pronounced Ben-Gvir. Okay. Okay. Wait, do you know who Lex is referring to? I have no idea. Lex is a super popular guy. Would it shock you if the Supreme Court used the argument I just gave as a reason for disagreeing with Colorado? I guess it'd be a pretty shitty argument. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of looking at the Ray Epps stuff too, and there was some weird stuff. A former Marine and his family was killed, and the SWAT team busted in the house and killed him despite having no previous charges. Ray Epps knew the guy and was even there after. Okay. You seen the unhinged shit that Mark Cuban is posting? No.